What up, everyone? I'm SteveVon Lamar, and this is my beautiful wife,
Britt to Shay.
And we want to welcome you to the SteveVon and Britt Unfiltered podcast. And we want you to know we're not experts, but we share our unfiltered experiences in life, love, and everything in between.
So be sure to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on any podcast platforms.
So check out the show notes for everything you need for this episode of the podcast.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? We're back.
Welcome back. Episode 3.
I'm excited.
We're your host, if you didn't know.
Yes, and I'm SteveVon_Lamar.
And I'm Britt_Tashay.
And we're so happy to be right in front of you.
Yes.
Listening
back.
In your ear or watching by your eyes.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Season 1, Episode 3. And today we're talking all about trust. The name of the podcast is Trust Really Earned?
Is trust really earned?
Yes,
okay.
yes. So we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
First, I want to just say, if you haven't listened to episodes 1 and 2, go ahead and go back and listen to those because they were amazing.
Yes, they were.
I mean,
instant listens.
We're biased, of course, but I think it would be worth your time to binge a little bit and catch up.
Just a tad.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into our segment for this episode, which is Sips Tea.
Sips Tea.
So with us talking all about trust this episode, I thought that it would be fitting, since we watched this it's a movie, it's not a series, but since we watched this on Netflix, I thought this is perfect for episode 3. So let me stop beating around the bush and just say what it is. So we watched on Netflix the Tinder Swinler. And wow.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say spoiler alert, because we're not going to say too much, but just enough where it's like you're going to get a little context. So it may be a bit of a spoiler, but still go back and watch it.
Yeah. It's
so
ridiculous. Let's just say that.
Crazy. And I watched it before SteveVon. We actually didn't watch it together at first. But I was like, you have to watch this. Like, it's perfect for the podcast. And we had just finished Inventing Anna, and it kind of has that same kind of vibe.
It's real time.
Yeah. So it's crazy. So let's get into it. Some of the things I wanted to point out about Tinder Swindler is that, number one, the first story with the first girl, I don't remember her name, but the first girl, her story just stuck out so much to me. All of them all had this trust thing going on.
Yeah, hers is different. Hers is a different level. It
was just another level. It was like, she is in love, with love. And she was just a hopeless romantic kind of vibe. Like, even some of the things that she stated on the beginning of the story of just like her perception of love was like fairy tale, Disney, and like I think they even gave the example of Belle in Beauty and the Beast.
For real.
Which, if anybody like really thinks about that story, it's what is it called?
Don't mess up people's
it's okay
childhood.
I'm gonna ruin your childhood right now.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, it's Stockholm syndrome. It's when you are stuck with one person, you have no choice. Like, it's like you literally have no choice. Like, you feel like you're gonna fall in love with them.
Yeah. And
so they may not be the best opportunity for you, but because you're literally stuck with them.
Right. I mean, the crazy part is, like, in a world with many options, you shouldn't fall into that trap, but sometimes people do because that's all they have in front of them.
Yeah, that's true. But
or they don't see anything else. Like you said, their perspective is off.
Yeah, that's true. But she was literally trapped in the house with the beast and fell in love with him.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's different.
It worked out because, when she fell in love, he turned back into a man. But what if that wasn't the case? It'd be really weird, right? Like, she's in love with the beast. Like, okay.
I mean,
but
aren't you in love?
I see what you did there.
I'm not a beast.
But I digress. So I brought up that because I feel like in love, especially in America and probably all over the world, but in America specifically, we romanticize everything. We romanticize love, and it's because of Disney. It's because of the fairy tales. It's because of Hollywood, you know.
But I mean, honestly, even in Tinder Swindler, they weren't even in America. So
right. That's true.
This is universal.
It's universal.
It's a thing.
Yeah. So I felt like she was romanticizing the situation.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, it was like she just wanted to believe. You know what I'm saying? Like she wanted to believe. She wanted to trust that he was everything that he was saying, you know. And they got a lot of those women got a lot of flack for that, because they were being looked at as gold diggers, all of this. And one of the girls actually said in the actual movie, she was like, well, gold diggers don't give away, they don't give their money away, you know. They don't.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, I told you I was gonna ruin it for you, so you gotta go. Still, you need to go watch it. But I think all of that is just this false representation of what love really looks like, and it's romanticizing what the process of falling in love is. Like, this girl on the first date was just, you know, kiss on the cheek, already lost. On the private plane, you know what I'm saying? Like going on an adventure
on a private plane doing private things, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that's facts too. I forgot about that.
I'm not telling everything, but I'm just giving you hints, you know.
Right. And like, you don't even know this guy, you know. So for her, it was just so unrealistic to what love really looks like, which is learning. As we covered in episode 1, you're not ready to love if you're not ready to learn. And so love is a learning process. And it was just, I just trusted this guy. So he said maybe she was blinded by the wealth or the looks or so many things.
So many things.
Yeah.
You know, they say, not to, you know, like we said, no spoiler alerts, but to, you know, they say like, you know, wealth is like a man's makeup. So for women, you know, to make sure they put the makeup on and make sure the body looks good, and then when you finally get to know the girl and you finally see without her makeup, without the extensions, without the eyelashes, all the different additives, you get to see who they really are, right? And hopefully you like that person. But with this guy, it's similar. Without the wealth, without all the things that he added on, would you still like him? And most times, I think women are not, I wouldn't say men are only superficial. So I'm not trying to downplay my guys, but what I would say for sure, when they get that deep into it, like you said, they just, they're going to love you regardless, most likely. Yeah. But I don't know. I know some guys out there, you're doing good. If you go broke, you probably scared she's going to leave, you know? Yeah. And that's also a part of trust. Yeah. Like, because can I trust you beyond what I can bring to the table, right?
For better or worse, richer or poor, even though we don't want to be in the poor situation.
Right. People be trying to change the vows now.
Yeah. But it's real, you know, like at the end of the day, you never know in life what you're going to go through. You don't know what things, you know, what obstacles you're going to come across. And so you may be up today and down tomorrow or next year or, you know, 10 years, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't know the ebbs and flows of life. And so, you know, it's just, that's why the vows are what they are. Yeah, you know, for sure. Better and worse, richer and poor. So I think, though, when you were saying that, a thought came to my mind that maybe she was blinded by the experience. You know, it's just like, because she was kind of talking about how she had never experienced anything like that before. You know, just that level of I don't know, I guess wealth it is what it was, honestly. Being like, hey, I just flew to your city and I'm gonna see you for a date, you know, and like we're going to this fancy restaurant and like we're going on a private jet.
Just catered, showered, with, you know, gifts and love and all that stuff, and what seems like
to the next level, though, like, because most dates are, oh, let's go out to eat and, you know, like that, but like on your first date you're getting chartered on a private jet to go to another, you know, country or whatever. Like, that's crazy. So I think the experience, along with her view of what love is being super romanticized, it just kind of swept her, you know, from off her feet, and she fell quick and hard, and her trust was there. But the reason why I wanted to bring this to the floor, to the table, whatever you want to say, for the podcast, is because the main issue with every single woman that was in position with the swindler was trust. It was all about trust. And so that kind of builds the framework for this episode. So we're going to go right into our next segment, which is Pillow Talk. Pillow Talk. So SteveVon said I need to whisper.
Yeah, you got to whisper
now.
Because it's all about, this segment is about the intimate conversation. You know how it is when you get more vulnerable, you're more open. When you're at home with your significant other, with your spouse, and you open up.
Yeah.
And so we want to have one of those intimate conversations about trust.
Okay. So now that the framework has been built, I want to define trust. Okay. So the definition for trust is a firm, I thought that was interesting, a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So once again, trust is defined as a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. So with that said, it has been said actually that there are two ways in which trust works. And I would love to hear y'all's opinion about this as well in the comments or when you leave voicemail or whatever. Just let us know. Yeah, like seriously, or on Instagram, whatever. Let us know what you view, like how you view trust. So,
also, you can leave a message so it can be featured on this podcast as well.
Absolutely. So it's said that there are two ways that trust is viewed. And I want to ask a question here. But number one, trust is viewed as you start with 0 trust and you earn your way to 100. Okay. Or you start with 100 and you lose trust to re-earn. You lose it and go to 0 and you have to re-earn it back to 100. Right. So my question is, out of the two ways in which trust is looked at, which do you agree with more and why? Or which way do you view it?
I agree with option 2. Or option 1, excuse me. I'm sorry. Option 1.
I was going to say I'm shocked.
Right. Yeah, option 1, that it starts at 0 and it's built to 100. I was going to even ask this question to you, like, do you think trust is built?
You jumping ahead in my
right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
jumping ahead in my notes.
Yeah. So, but I would say from the definition of a firm belief, some of us got more firmness in our beds than we have in our friendships and in our marriages and our relationships. And it's crazy. We'll even go to a mattress store and make sure it's firm enough before we make our purchase. But we don't even necessarily do that with our trust with others. Right. We're just like, okay, I think they look trustworthy. They seem like they're trustworthy. But like I said, I believe it's built. I believe it takes time and it's earned. And I think it's like understanding that person, and to understand someone and receive someone, and it can be a job, it can be a person, it doesn't matter. It takes time. Yeah. So I think trust takes time. And if you're willing to put in time, you can see if trust is being, earned through that.
So for me, I literally, like I've always said, you have to earn my trust. Trust is earned, respect is earned, and it's not given. But then there are times and instances where I can see where you do give someone or something 100% of your trust up front, and then literally they begin to lose it. So I kind of feel like it's both and, it's not either or. Yeah. And so I think every situation is different. Every relationship is different, and every experience is different because, like, for instance, a lot of times we go to our doctors with 100% trust. Like, you went to school for this, you're educated, I am not. So I'm going to trust that you have the answers and that you can care for me in a way that's going to make me better. So I start out with, maybe it's not 100%, let's be honest, but it's just like 90, 80. Yeah, you give them something, and then they are working to continue to stay in that full trust position and do what they said, to care for you, or they lose it and you're like, I'm done with that doctor. I'm switching doctors, And so, but in relationships, it's very foreign. You don't know the person, you're learning them. And so you may start out with 0. Some people may start out with 100. Like, like, I'm going to give you trust until you break it. Like, I'm going to believe that you are where you say you are. I'm going to believe that you're doing what you say you're doing until you give me reason to prove otherwise. For me, it's kind of like, I'm trying to look at both options and be like, which one's more healthy? Me personally, even because you can see it from both angles.
But because I can see where someone can say option one, which I'm saying from 0 to 100 is not healthy. But I can also see where someone can say from 100% straight out the gate is not healthy either. And I'm leaning more on number 2, not being the healthiest, right? Because it almost puts you in a deficit right away because people are going to break your trust. Even people that do good with like building trust, they still have options to break your trust. And more so for me, thinking about is trust earned, it's more so, it leans more to, the second one leans more towards expectation. And as I've gotten older, even like in our marriage, even with our friendships, even with our parents, even with our friends, even with jobs, I've learned to give no one expectation but God. Reason why is because he's the only one that can fulfill every expectation, even if he doesn't do it. I'm not saying that he's done everything. Clearly, we have a story. We have different things in our personal lives by ourselves that we were expecting, and it didn't happen. But the thing about it is he has the capacity to do it. Now, others may not, right? Others may, they may not have the capacity to be there for you at all times.
Yeah. So
that best friend that you call and they didn't answer this time. So now your trust is dropping, but you expected them. And it's an unrealistic expectation. Like a lot of us have a lot of unreal expectations, and a lot of people get married for unrealistic expectations, right? And then they're wondering why they don't want to be together after 4 or 5 years or a couple, decade. It's just not the same. You don't care for me the same. Well, some of the expectations is just not real. Like it's too hard for one person to carry. Yeah. Right. And so I think the secondary answer, in a sense, will put you in a position to be disappointed more than the first one, because the trust can be built, it can drop, it can fluctuate like a battery on the phone. Yeah, the battery's going to drop a little bit, but if you recharge it, then it's going to, the percentage goes back up. And that's what happens with relationships. I think you have moments where you drop in trust, and you're like, okay, how are we going to recharge this thing? Do we need counseling? Do we need to sit down, have a conversation? We've been good for 7 months. We've been good for the last 3 years. Okay, it dropped because of something else. Yeah. And it might not be like a conversation that you guys always communicate, but maybe it's finances. You didn't tell her your spouse about this, and now the trust dropped in this area, but not in this area.
That's true.
So I think it's better to start with nothing to build to something, from my perspective, I think.
So I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. Welcome to our pillow talk. This is how it really is. Yes. So why can't, or do you think? Let me ask like that. Do you think that you can just start in the middle? Because I think a lot of times that we always make everything so black and white, and we'll have a podcast about that. Yes. But we try to make everything so black and white when there are so many shades of gray. Like there's so many spaces in the middle. And so I feel like maybe it's neither starting at 0 or starting at 100. Maybe it's at the 50 and we meet each other and we kind of just grow, because like you just said so beautifully, every area is different. So you have to earn not only trust as in like,
it's not like
love.
one trust. Yeah, it's not like one trust.
Right.
It's several different areas
it
of
branches
trust.
out. Exactly. It's like a tree or whatever, it branches out, and there are different elements: financial, relational, communication, all the different branches in a relationship. Yeah. And you have to build those areas of trust in each one. And like you said, some seasons one is lacking and the other ones are flourishing. And some seasons they all are. That's very rare, but they all are. And then some seasons it's like most of them are not. All it's complete trust is broken, So I feel like we always, as people, try to make things so just like yes and no, black and white. And I feel like just sitting here, this is why I love having these conversations, because it helps us. It really helps us to see, like, we need to, if we always say we want to meet in the middle, right? That's what that practically looks like. Yeah. It's not just saying, hey, let's meet in the middle on finances. Let's meet in the middle on, our beliefs or whatever you want to say. Right. But it's actually saying, in the matter of trust, I'm not going to just be irresponsible and give you 100. Yeah. And then give you 100 to shatter into pieces, and I got to pick it up, because if you walk away after it's shattered, then it's on me to fix it. Right. That's that brokenness we talked about last podcast. Yeah. Right. Or if I start with 0 because of my past experiences, it's kind of tainted for you to be able to grow it to 100. Right. So instead it's like, I'm not going to be foolish from my past experience, but I'm not also going to hold you to my past experiences as well. So what if we meet in the middle and say 50-50, let's both work towards this goal of trust in all areas.
It's work though, because I love that what you're saying. It's tough. I'm really thinking about it from the standpoint of if I use the phone as an example again, it's like, well, certain phones or certain chargers, you might have water damage in your phone, so it doesn't never get to a full charge. So like you can never even get to 50% because it's been damaged, and a lot of us and different people have been damaged. People have damaged our trust, and a lot of times it's happened from like usually with family in the beginning, and you're like, I trusted my own family, I trusted my friend, and it's like, and so you come into it like you talked about in the podcast, in the last one, I believe, talking about your relationships coming in with that mindset already because somebody did you wrong,
right?
And so like for me, when we were starting to date or even just talk, we were just friends. You were looking through that lens, right? And it was right for you to look through that lens because you had been hurt from that place. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but at the same time, I'm not the same guy, right? Or that person that you're dealing with. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you're like, I know exactly. Or if you're watching, right? I know exactly what they talk about. I just dealt with that last week, right? Yeah. But the person that you're dealing with may not be the same person as the person that hurt you. Or damaged you or diminished your trust level or percentage. And so at the same time, I think you got to look at it almost like a new phone, right? Every time, you get a new phone, sometimes they say it's fully charged, but it's not all the time. But it usually is 50%. Right. You ever like plugged it up and you're like, okay, at least I got a charge. Something. I'm starting with something. You're
not starting with zero.
So maybe zero, like you said, isn't the main thing to start with, because that means they got to have to work extra hard. But starting with something and then giving them opportunity to see where they grow or they diminish, honestly.
And you talking about my past experience, that kind of goes into the next question. So I wanted to know, what's an experience or an example that you had dealing with trust? And because I like to keep things transparent because it helps people to navigate through certain situations. So when they hear a situation that we've walked through, maybe it can help them, to be able to navigate something that they are going through or get some type of something to glean from, something to pull from. Yeah. So in our lessons that we're learned. So what's an example or an experience that you had with trust?
I would say clearly it's a ton, right? Yeah. If you lived long enough, you live a day, you learn it, right? But I would say when I was a teenager, or preteen, essentially, and it's funny because a lot of our pain comes from when we were children, right? And a lot of it comes from when we couldn't even control. Even though we try narrative.
To act like young people don't go through anything,
which we know they really do. Right? I'm a youth pastor, and I know, but even without being a youth pastor, I know from my own experience. That's why
I think that's the older generation, not so much ours.
Yeah, I think millennials kind of know, and they kind of get it. That's why we trying to take our self-care back, and whether people say it's selfish or not, I think self-care is not selfish. I think it can be in a sense can be overly used and mishandled sometimes too, but at the same time, for all the years that people weren't doing it, you got to go back and gain yourself back. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago as well, so I would say this, for me, when I was in middle school, like I was 8th grade, I think. How old are you in your 8th grade? 12? No, I was in 6th grade. Yeah, I was in 6th grade. And I was tall for my age, I was like 5'11" or something like that. So I looked like I was older. So I was dating a girl when I was 15, and I'm like 12 or 13, and I'm like, I'm feeling good about myself. But like, we grew up in a church together, and we were dating, essentially, kind of. My mom thought it was cute, but my mom really didn't want me dating. And my dad was happy about it or whatever. But like, I couldn't talk on the phone for real. I just had all these restrictions that they had in place because clearly I was 12 years old. Right? You were 12. And they were trying to protect me. And it was so funny. Like, in that same season, this wasn't funny at the time. But now that I'm thinking about it, like now it's kind of funny. But I was like dating this girl. I used to be in the choir at our church back in the day.
If you know SteveVon, he cannot. What? Sing. I'm sorry, babe.
I can hit a tune, man. Come on, don't do me like that.
You can hear musically, but the singing part.
Okay. When they hear this mixtape that's coming out, they're gonna hear a little bit of singing. Just a tad.
Talk your talk.
Just a little bit. I got little vocals here and there. But no, I was singing in the church choir, and at that particular year, like out of all years, the years that I wasn't dating nobody, we just had a children's choir, and they had everybody in there till you was like 17, you couldn't be in the adult choir. But now they want to be all brand new and they want to get a teen choir. I'm like, okay, youth choir. And I'm like, okay, this is dope. Wait, I'm not 13 though. So I'm still 5'11", nearly 6 feet. And I'm standing in this choir singing tenor with the kids, with the children's choir, right? This is hilarious. And so they used to have rehearsals at the same time. Well, we had rehearsals first for the kids, get us out the way early. And then the teenagers would come in, the youth choir would come in, and they would have their rehearsal. And it was like, at that time, like 15, 20 people deep. And I'm like, all right, what's up? Saying what's up to my friends, because I had older friends too, because I was tall. And my girlfriend at the time was in the choir. So I'm like, yeah, I'll see you, next week or whatever. I'll see you tomorrow, like talking to her.
She had no business dating you.
No, I thought I was cool or whatever. And I really wasn't, though, because like later on, what really happened, long story short, was she had a birthday party. This is not funny, but it is funny. She had a birthday party, and I was on my way to the birthday party, about to pick her up, her cousin or something. And her cousin asked me, do you know, they dating? I'm like, who is they? I don't want to say the names, but I'm like, who is the they? And she was like, no, never. No, they ain't dating. So it was my best friend. Yeah. My best friend and my girlfriend were dating while I was supposedly dating her. And so when the cousin said, do you know that they? I'm like, I'm messed up. I'm riding in the car with my mom with the cousin on the way to a skate party, and get to the party. And I'm still like putting my skates on, confused. Right. Like, I don't really know what's happening, but this don't seem right. So still naive, still young, still trusting, at a high level, because it's my first real girlfriend, and I was just like so in love. And anyways, they go, skate night. You get the little couple song come on. Aww. And it was just like a movie. A bad one though for me. And they say, all the couples to the dance. I feel the pain right now. I'm just playing. All the couples to the dance floor and or to the skating rink, whatever. And they play the music, and I'm telling you, like a movie. I'm about to go skate over to her, but I got like the regular skates. Like I got the rental skates. Like y'all tracking with me, and I'm doing the left, right, kick, push, like trying to skate to her. And he actually has rollerblades. Whoa. Rollerblades. Like he's killing it with the rollerblades, right? And this is my guy. It's my friend, man. But at the time, I was just like, what is happening? And he skated past me. I think he even did like a backward skate. It reminded me of like a Dave Chappelle scene or something for real. And he grabs her hand. Guy does the robot. And he grabs her hand, and then he like skates off. And at this particular skating rink, there's like a little bench on the side. So literally while he skates off, I slide over to the bench like a player that don't get no PT, no playing time in the game. And I sat down and I didn't get back up. I was just sad. I was frustrated. And I was like, what happened? Like, not only, yeah.
Sorry, little SteveVon.
Yeah. You feel my pain, And when I skated to the side, I was just like, man, for real, not only my girl, but my guy, this is my boy. They were saying, I was like, that made me so mad. So frustrated, so hurt at the time, and it took some time to really heal from that. Yeah, and it was crazy because even after that, like a couple of my other girlfriends or friends that were girls, they were like, "It doesn't matter, we're gonna skate with you." And they took my arms. I was skating with two girls, and that felt good for a second until I got home. I had to still deal with the trust that was just lost, broken from my girlfriend and my best friend at that time. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. Every time he tells that story, because he's telling it like in different messages to the youth and everything, and it's not funny, but it's funny how he tells it. Like you can literally crazy. See it like a movie. Yeah. So,
then I got in the car with my mom on the way home, and I started telling her, and she was like, I got loud with her, and she was like, "Boy, I know you hurt." And she popped me in the chest like, "Boy, I know you hurt, but you better quiet down." I said, "Okay, Mom."
It's so funny.
So.
But yeah, so the thing that I want to point out about this story is that, I don't know, I think it was first episode 1. We talked about this where you said that I challenged you on this. This is the particular root of where I challenged him. Yeah, was because of the brokenness that happened in that situation and the disappointment, the broken trust. It caused him to kind of view relationships differently, friendships. It was tainted. You want to talk about that? Yeah,
so for me, and thank you for that, by the way, babe. Mm-hmm. I had a friend, he was younger than me, great guy, young youth pastor right now, and he used to come over to the house like early on when we were living in Charlotte, and he would be like, "Hey, I'm coming by," and he would just call me, and I'd be like, "Cool." You know, we were new to this area at the time. We were in a program at Elevation Church or whatever, and so like it was cool. Like we were trying to build friendships and know people and all that, and so he would come over, and sometimes I wouldn't respond like I should right away, and it wasn't because of like him. He was amazing. He was a really funny friend. He actually gave us so much life when he came over, like a little brother, and at times I would be like, okay, I'm going to text him, but I would forget and just start like be really lackadaisical with my responses at times. And I mean, he asked me about it one time, and I respected it. It really was helpful in my process at the time. And we're still friends to this day. I actually just talked to him this week. But in that moment, like Britt asked me like one time, like, why you didn't respond or something? It was something like, and I was like, I don't know. And she was like, you might still be broken by that relationship when you were in middle school, you know, when you were 12.
Because I think that for me, I was starting to kind of see a small pattern, because SteveVon, if you know him personally, he's very relational and loves engaging with people. He's the extrovert, I'm the introvert. So he's always talking to people, always building friendships and things. But I think at a certain point, he would only let people get so close. You know, and it would only go so far, not surface necessarily, but it would just be like, okay, just to guard my heart, like because of past trust issues. And
I would say broken. Like past trust, if it's broken, can be past trauma. And so for me, possibly what I felt, I think at the time was like, man, this is like, he really wants to be my friend, just genuinely. And I don't know if that's real, because the one that was my genuine friend when I was younger, for years, like we were friends for years, grew up in the church together, just in a moment, just broke my trust for a chick. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk. And she was at our church, you know, so it's like, for me, I'm like, I don't know how to gauge this. And Britt was like, you need to deal with it. And I was like, I do. Like the cool part was I was just like, I realized it, like, yeah, I kind of do, you know? And so in that moment, awesome. I started to, you know, think about like, you know, reaching out to him more and, you know, actually telling him what I felt, and like, yeah, man, you're right, I got to do better. I got a friend that I've known longer than you recently, is another one of my close friends. And I was like, man, I haven't even reached out to him, you know? And so he kind of helped me to like focus in. And Brittany really did by challenging me to see where I was really broken in my trust. And I'm way better now. So because
and it's
of
a process, you know, like it takes those moments of like recognizing, because that's major. You were young, and a lot of times those traumatic experiences when we're young, they carry, you know, they move with us throughout life, you know. And so now your view of friendship is like tainted, like, whoa, that's my boy, I've been friends with him for years, grew up with him, and like you would actually do that. So now how can I look at people who I'm just meeting? I have no clue really who you are. I'm building a situation with you, like a friendship with you, so I get it, you know. But it does take someone that sees the pattern and it's like, hey, you know, everyone's not like that one person. Every situation is not like that one situation. And on a good note, you end up addressing it with that particular friend, and y'all like squashed it later.
We squashed it. I mean, he was a good friend,
and it was years later, like
challenging
adulthood later.
And I think for him, he had some probably trust issues from other situations. He just like, man, I'm gonna be real with you, like are we friends? And I'm like, yeah, bro, you're like my brother, man. Like he was the closest person to me at the time, me and Brittany, while we were there. So but even with that,
you're talking about the friend that
the friend that's at Elevation, when we were at Elevation. Sorry. So we were the closest to him out of anybody while we were there. So but even what you're saying, that's like I still had some distance, right, or some damage from the past relationship that caused me to create distance from my friends. And so which made it like standoffish, kind of like social distancing, right? We had 6 feet away just because we were trying to protect each other, but really we were really scared. And so that's kind of can go with what I'm saying. Like I was trying to protect myself, but at the same time I was scared of where it could go because of past, you know, experiences.
And that's good. I love that, distance and damage. And then it wasn't until you acknowledged it that it was able to be, you know, restored and fixed. Even your relationship with the friend that helped you to realize it, and then moving into the friendship that caused the damage, y'all were able to repair it. So
me and my boy back home, we're still friends now to this day. We're more mature. We talk through it. So
that's
plus
awesome.
we have no we ain't have no full frontal lobe. We just keep talking about that, right?
Yeah.
The frontal lobe thing is really a big
real,
deal.
Y'all.
Man, you just like almost have to chalk up anything that was before full frontal lobe. You know?
It's an L.
Right, it's an L.
Anything
you know
before 25 was an L.
Right. So it's okay.
Not really though, because we won. We met each other before 25, so that was the win.
we had some.
But we had some L's.
We'll talk about
That's
some
okay.
of them L's one day.
So I'll go ahead and answer the question. So for me, y'all have heard some of my experiences over the past 2 episodes. SteveVon even brought it up earlier about my past relationships and stuff, and that's true, but I kind of want to lean on a different way because I think that this is not talked about a lot, especially in our Christian sphere and atmosphere. But honestly, for me, a major trust issue that I faced and experienced was my trust with God.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I wanted to tackle that a little bit because we can talk about relationships, but like that's the ultimate relationship. Facts. You know. So like I had, for those of you who don't know our story, if you don't follow us on our YouTube channel, we started documenting our journey to baby, to get pregnant, and we call it TTC. Sorry, trying to conceive. And we went through, it's so funny because today we had a doctor's appointment. At the time of this recording, it's March 21st. And we had an appointment with the doctor today where we sat down, and we're now trying, like sitting down with doctors, like, what do we do? How do we do this? Because, you know, age is becoming a factor, all of those things. And in the first appointment, I have to sit down and walk through my history of everything that has happened, all the, you know, things that we faced. And so it kind of was a reminder even to talk about today, you know, in this podcast. So for those who don't know, and I may have mentioned this before, I've been diagnosed back in 2015 with a condition called PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. And it messes with my hormones and me having the ability to ovulate and therefore carry, you know, or get pregnant. And then I end up, so through the process, after finding that out, I made some lifestyle changes, did all of these things, and was able to, you know, reverse some symptoms and was able to get pregnant, felt like miraculously, you know. And actually, if you watch our YouTube video, when we announced our very first pregnancy, it was a prophetic word for those of y'all who believe in that. And you down with the spiritual side like we are. And we're not as spiritually heavy anymore, but like we had this word that came to us that was in a year's time from that moment we will be holding a baby. And that was just, we didn't ask for that. We were sitting in the audience, we were just receiving the word, just going to church and serving and doing all the things, but we didn't ask to be called out. We didn't ask to get that word. And so for that to come out, it was wow. I felt responsible for that word. And I think that's a part of we're not on that right now, but we can have a discussion in a podcast about that. But we rely a lot on the prophecy and the word, but we don't do the work. Right. And so I felt very responsible to carry that word out. Yeah. And so I did everything in my power to see that I was like coming alongside that word to make sure that it was, you know, going to come to pass. And so it wasn't because I didn't want to make the man of God a lie either. It was because I felt like, oh my God, we've been wanting to be parents and now we're finally about to be at that place. Yeah. So I did all of these things, made all of these changes. Long story short, I got pregnant with our first baby. Yep. 3 Lou and my boy, 3 Lou. Little boy. And that pregnancy went from going into 13 weeks, and I went through a miscarriage with him, delivered him, and we lost our baby boy. And that was very traumatic and sad. And so, you know, I'm just like, well, God said it. So that can't be the end, right? Like that can't be it.
You gotta say all the little statements. God said it, so
and that
settles it.
It's like, So I'm like, that can't be it. I gotta keep pushing. I gotta keep trying. And I pushed past the loss. I took maybe a couple months off to kind of just like breathe, reset, start over. And then we tried again. And on that first try that we actually tried again, we got pregnant 3 months after our miscarriage. And then we end up finding out around 19, 20 weeks that we were having a girl, our baby girl. And so, around 19, 20 weeks, right when we were about to announce our pregnancy, I ended up going into labor, preterm labor. Yeah. And the care was just whatever. So we're not going to get into that. We just need to, I want to put a pin here that we need to have better advocates in care for Black women.
Yes.
Because that whole situation probably could have been prevented and we would have a little girl here, but anyways, they're going to move on. But so I carried to 19, 20 weeks, somewhere around there, and I went into labor and delivered our baby girl, and she's beautiful.
She was.
Yeah. And so we went through that loss and lost her. And then we took another month or two off and said, okay, let's try again, because that word is on my back like a supervisor. Like who said that joke? Earthquake.
Man, that's Comedy Says.
And so we tried again and we got pregnant, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this, because this is after we've been married. I don't remember how long at this point. It was 2015.
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years of not preventing, and we never had a pregnancy scare. So this was a miracle. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, straight up.
So I ended up getting pregnant again, and I think I found out like around week 4 and couldn't get into the doctor until like week 5 or 6 or something like that. And it was just a pregnancy that wasn't viable. And so we lost that baby as well at like around 5 or 6 weeks. No, somewhere. It was early. Yeah. And I never can recall the exact weeks because it was just so like.
Yeah. And at that time we were just depleted.
Yeah.
We were just like, okay. And I know your body was just like,
I was done.
I'm done.
So at that point, like we told the doctors today, I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. So that was all in a span of a year and a half, I want to say, was all of that happened from 2015 to 2016 was just pregnant, loss, pregnant, loss, pregnant, loss. And so it was just so much. And I went through it. I went through
14 months of up and down, ebbs and flows.
We both went through it. And SteveVon had to just continue to go because he's the husband, the provider. And he was just being strong for both of us at the time. Yeah. And then for me, I was allowed the space to grieve because I wasn't working actual like 9 to 5 at the time, but I went through it, depression, and I didn't want to get out the bed. I literally had blackout curtains on our window, and it would be dark. SteveVon would come in from work and be like, babe, you got to open up the blinds. You got to let some sun in. Like, you got to, I know you're sad. Like, he would just kind of try to push me through these moments. But I went through it. And so that all of that to say, number one, that's history into why I kind of lost trust with God. But I am a worship leader. And so I would have a hard time reconciling, God, I sing about you. I pray to you. Yeah. I believe in you. I like minister to others about you, and I'm in youth ministry, so I would talk to the young people about you. Yeah. And I trusted you. I trusted you with this that I know I asked to be pregnant, but I didn't ask for you to call me out and do this whole big shebang public display in front of this public display in front of everybody. Yeah. Only to end up in disappointment, only to end up in loss. Yeah. And I completely lost trust for God. I didn't want to sing anymore. I was like, I'm not singing for him anymore. Yeah. I'm not doing anything anymore. I'm not going to church anymore.
I mean, we even announced it. I just literally told my supervisor this today because I talked to him about our visit, and I was like, the first time, we were like, okay, we're out to clear. Like, we're out of a couple of weeks. Like, we're at 11, 12. Let's tell it. Yeah. We tell it to our church, and they go crazy. And it was amazing. And the support from that, like, was so, you could feel it was tangible. And then the next week, we lose my first baby.
Right after
baby
the announcement.
Literally, right after the announcement. Yeah. Like, it was clockwork. Then we do it again.
And we didn't
with,
announce.
With Abby, we didn't tell anybody anything.
We just told our close friends and family.
And our pastors, I believe, at the time. And so once we got to like 18, 19 weeks, we're like, man, we're really out the clear, man. We're halfway there. Like, we're past halfway. Let's share it. I come down in a service and say to Britt, I think she was leading worship or something. So I think we should share. And the pastors are like, yeah, go ahead. And you know, it boosts, builds and boosts the faith of others. Yeah. And we shared it, and these people are believing with us. And so people get excited again. And it's just like, same thing the next week, literally. Yeah. Lose a baby girl. It made
us not want to share anymore.
Yeah. Like, we couldn't even trust God in that to even share. Like, we'll just hold it in. Yeah. We won't say anything.
Like, literally, we were thinking, like, at our next pregnancy, we probably won't announce it. We probably won't say anything. We'll just pop up, like, 40, 30 something weeks pregnant, close to delivery, like, and people will be like, what the heck?
There you go, which is why, like, on our YouTube, channel, and to all our subscribers, thank you for continuing to follow us. But that's why we took a break, because it's like, not only was it at church, but it was online. It was like, it was everywhere. Comments like, well, how are you doing? And now you're like, I'm not even doing good. They don't even know. And we eventually told you guys, because we really call you family, so we want to let you know. And it was just tough.
It was very tough. And I think we both walked through this process with God. But I think mine was probably just a little deeper.
Oh, yours was definitely deeper.
Yeah. And so I fell completely out of trust with God. Like, and I think it was a process of me growing and rebuilding this trust with him over time. And I remember when I went back to leading worship, and I kind of gave an exhortation, and you talk about it sometimes.
Yeah, like, you hadn't done worship for at least 3 months. Yeah, probably more than that. I mean, because I went back, I was helping with production and still being available to them and the team, but it was tough. And then Britt was like, I'm ready to go back, and she started to sing, and it touched my heart. Honestly, I was messed up in that production room.
I don't really fully remember what I said.
Well, you said you were singing a song about God's love, and you started to say, like, you paused and gave an exhortation and said, like, this love that I'm singing about, I know, because even when I didn't trust him, he still loved me. And when I heard it, it was like something so real. It's like Unfiltered, for real. It's like, it's one of the realest statements, because most people won't say that at church. It's not right to say that. It's not right to go against what he does. And, like, even though he's still faithful, doesn't mean I don't have, like, distrust towards him sometimes.
Even though he's faithful doesn't mean that I always feel it.
Exactly, right? Or like, he's always there. He'll never forsake me, but that doesn't mean I don't feel forsaken or feel alone and feel left out or left behind. Yeah. And so that feeling, it resonated with me, because I was there with you. And I, not just like physically, I was there with you mentally, emotionally, like, oh man, God, like, why? Like, come on, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't even have to do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? And people I know probably thinking right now, like, it wasn't God, or it's not this, it's gonna be all right. And people always want to console. I'm gonna drop a pin here for the Unfiltered folks. Like, here's the thing, like, just because people are going through don't mean you have to, like, give an answer. Yeah. Sometimes just being present is the best answer. Like, just being there, patting their back, being there, just eat some food, laughing at a show, or just sitting with them in their sorrow. Like, we are creatures of habit to want to make things better and fix things. And it's not necessarily fixing anything when we're broken.
It's not fixable.
It's not.
That situation of grief is not fixable.
Like, words can't fix that. Yeah. Like, but what could help it is you just being a human. Yeah. Yeah. Like, being present. That's and good. There's no shade to anybody. I've been on the other side where I've been the person that think I need to say a word, or been there. I mean, if you do ministry, you have to be there for people in their brokenness and when they're going through. Yeah. But one of the best things is just being available. Yeah. Like, you don't need answers. Yeah. We don't need answers at that time. Yeah. We done already try to figure out all the answers. Right. Yeah. But we need availability. Yeah. Like, are you available to sit with me for the next 3 weeks? Are you available to just, like, hey man, let's go shoot ball, or hey, I'm just gonna sit with you for a couple hours, and I'm gonna come back tomorrow. Yeah. Right. And especially if you're really close with that person. Yeah. And we have friends that did do that. Yeah. And so that was another reason why.
That's kind of what helped us navigate out of it, was that community. And especially for me, having those close friends to kind of be around, and I could see the love of God through them. being there, supporting us and helping us to navigate it and giving us the space to grieve however we needed to grieve.
Yeah, I would say my best friend, Josh, love my boy, man. And he said something to us the first loss. Mm-hmm. And I had never heard this. And he was just like, I want to tell you and Britt, don't rush out of this. Grieve the process. I was like, what? Never heard anybody say that. Because people always try to move you along.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere. In restaurants, in the store, in life. All right, move to the next thing. And it's like, no, the next thing, I may not even make it to it if I don't get through this.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was the permission that he gave us. And he was a youth pastor and, all these different things. So it's like, man, this is somebody like believes in God is actually telling us, pause and grieve. It's okay.
Yeah.
Some of you need to do that. Like you listening right now, you probably still ain't grieved the process of somebody passing in your life years ago or something you lost and you wonder why you on edge, wonder why you struggling is because you would never let that thing go.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my youth and one of the parents the other day and she's telling me like, her son was struggling because he lost his grandmother.
Yeah.
And he didn't think about it, but he had never dealt with it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I remember that same feeling. I lost my grandmother. This is all in the same year. Mm-hmm. When I got played and my best friend did me like that, I lost my grandmother the same year. So now I'm really all of the person I trust, one of the people I trust the most just passed. And I'm frustrated and I need her. She ain't here. And it didn't happen until college. Mm-hmm. And it probably was from a service or something I heard at church that week or whatever. And I was actually in the actual shower and I was just praying and I was like starting my day and I just broke down. I was like, I never let that go. Mm-hmm. I never dealt with my grandmother passing. And honestly, let's be honest, who has these classes about like how many people have classes about grieving
right
and teaching, especially in the Black community. Maybe they have in other communities, but in our community, you just taught to be strong, move on, get up and go. Don't quit. That don't always work.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is teaching people how to be broken and dispute their brokenness everywhere they go.
Yeah.
Versus like dealing with something or at least starting the process to heal from the grieving.
Absolutely. So what I found that like I didn't know it at the time, but what I end up having to do besides get like a supportive community around me, I had the support of my husband, number one, who was there for me and helping to walk me through this every day. And I appreciate you for that. Thank you. Because you were going through it at the same time. Yeah. So I don't know how, but it's so funny because in moments where I was weak, he was strong. In moments where I was strong or where he was weak, I was strong and able to provide that strength. And so we were able to balance that out, but we also still needed more support outside of that. It's kind of like when you see a tree growing, like when they first plant a tree and they put those stakes on the side of it to make sure it's supported well so it can grow up. That's exactly what we needed. We needed that support around us to help us to kind of grow up out of this. Yeah. And so the other thing that I realized was that I wasn't able to rebuild my trust with God until I was able to really bring this before him and do these three things. There's three main pillars that make up trust. The first one is so funny. You're going to wait until I say it.
I already know.
So the first one is honesty. The second one is openness.
Okay.
The third one is transparency.
Okay. Hot.
We keeping it hot.
Shout out to my boy, Pastor Mike Todd. Hot, open, and transparent. No, he says honesty, right?
It might honest. Is it honest or is it humble? Theirs might be humble.
There might be humble.
I don't know, but it's hot. We keeping it hot like Mike Todd.
Keeping it hot tonight.
Yeah. So honesty, openness, and transparency. And that is a great acronym to remember when it comes to building trust. It's like, okay, if we have to start over, something has happened and we're committed to the rebuilding of the trust process is only going to happen, through honesty, openness, and transparency. Yeah.
You can't do it any other way.
Exactly. And that's why I said through my experience with God, through other relationships, even with you, you had to recognize, you had to get honest with yourself. You had to be open with the other friendships around you and the one that messed up, and you had to be transparent about the process of what hurt you. Yeah. And that's what happened with me and God. I had to get honest. Look, this is not right. It sucks. I didn't ask for this, right? I had to be open to like his love again, receiving again from him.
Open to God's love again. Wow.
Yeah. Deep, right?
Right.
But it's real. That's really,
true.
really what happened for me.
Like you, whether you're listening right now, watching, and you're like, oh, I don't get that. They're supposed to be Christians or they're supposed to be believers. Like, you have done it, even if you didn't say it. Like, you, at least, it would be better if you actually just tell yourself the truth.
We just don't say it out loud.
Yeah, we don't say it. Like, my trust was
Kanye
lost
says.
from God a long time ago, in different seasons. When I lost my grandmother in 6th grade, my trust was lost. We pray for her all the time.
Yeah.
It was crazy. We used to pray for like all her friends in dialysis when she was diabetic.
Yeah.
And we would pray for them and they would get out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And then we would pray for her and it's like she didn't. So at the end of the day, you have that 0 to 100, that trust, even with God, is like it's in fluctuating. It's like doing up and down.
Because it's that same thing happened to us, even though it was the trust of like this word coming to pass and we were already on the journey to start trying to get pregnant and all of that stuff.
Right.
It was also in the moment of loss at 19 weeks. We were in the hospital and they were trying to get my baby to go back into my uterus. So they had me, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a position where they tilt the bed where your legs are up and your uterus is up. So then the baby can come back. And then they were going to perform an emergency surgery where they put a band on my cervix.
Right.
That's what I was getting to also, because I end up finding out through that loss that I have incompetent cervix, where my cervix just doesn't hold the weight of a pregnancy.
It's weaker than usual.
Right. And so in future pregnancies, I will have to have something like that to assist me.
Yeah.
But it was in the moment of losing her where I had on all the worship music. SteveVon had all the worship music playing the entire time.
The whole time.
We had called all the prayer warriors, the pastors, the preachers, everybody, great faith, little faith, all the faith.
All the faith.
And we had all the faith in our hospital room.
I was praying till I fell asleep. Woke back up praying. I was sleep.
In and out of pain meds because I was actually in labor. And we were praying, believing, God, you're going to do it. You're going to push this baby back in. And we're going to get this surgery. This pregnancy is going to go to term. We're going to have a healthy baby. And obviously, now y'all know, it didn't end that way. You know, so in the midst of that process of trusting, believing, even in the moment, and it didn't turn out the way that it should have, right? And so that I had to walk through that. I had to get honest with God. Like, I believed you. I prayed to you. I fasted. I did all the work and we got here and still ended up in a loss. I had to get open with him and open myself back up to trusting him and his love again and believing that his love never escaped me. Yeah. Hello. And then the transparency with that came with that provided that healing for me. Yeah. And I think that's the same thing for you with your situation with your friendships as well. So honesty honestly is defined as, or honesty is you being true to yourself and to your partner or to your person in your relationship, like I just described. Yeah. And there's a quote in the movie Kingsman we just watched. Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah, the latest Kingsman movie. We're movie heads for those who don't know. We love watching movies and stuff. But Kingsman 3, there's a quote that says, "Trust is having confidence in the honesty of another."
I love that quote.
I love that quote.
That's so powerful. And it's having confidence in the honesty of others. So it helps you now with what we talked about earlier. Like, is it earned, right? Well, clearly it's earned because you have to have confidence be built based on their openness to be honest. Yep. So if someone's not open to be honest with you or they haven't really displayed honesty, your trust factor is going to go down in general. Yeah. You won't have confidence in them because they don't really show honesty. Yeah. And so I think the part for us when it comes to God, though, like we're talking about God, it's like, well, we have to trust that he still loves us, that he still cares for us, that he truly did die for us. And with that in our heart, even when we feel like we can't trust him after a loss or a struggle or feeling like we're in a tough place, we got to go back to his previous seasons where we're like, he did give me confidence that he didn't leave me. He did, and he did give me. I'm going to
put a pin here because we're going to talk about this on another podcast. And I didn't think we were going to go here, but I'm just going to mention it to you guys and we're going to come back because I know y'all going to want to talk about it. But going through this process made me honestly examine my what I believed about God and what he was supposed to do for me. Because we think of God as like this genie in the bottle. We don't say it out loud. We would never say it out loud, but we think we could just come to him and ask for whatever and get all of our prayers answered and all of this stuff, because you're the big cosmic God over all the universe, all the worlds and everything that exists. Yeah. So surely if I ask you can
for this little minute thing, I'm already a minute thing. So me asking for my
surely
little minute thing, you can do it. Yeah.
Right? And so when you said that, it made me think that I had to go back and reconcile, well, what did God actually promise me? Right. And I'm still figuring this out. I don't have the answers. We're not experts, but I'm still studying this. What did God actually promise me? Because did he promise me that I would have a baby? Did he promise me that I would have all of these promises here on this earth, or did he promise me that he would never leave me? And he would never forsake me. That's true. So I have to now base everything and every decision in my life and how I look at God as, no matter what I'm going through, he's here. Yep. No matter what I'm going through, he won't leave me. Even if I feel like I'm alone and he's not there, he's still here. Yeah. And he may not answer every question, but he's still here, So that's what I had to come to the realization of. That was the honesty and openness and transparency. It led me to that. Yeah. So openness is you sharing the vulnerable things that feel hard to talk about and giving the space, giving the other person, including God, the space to do the same. Yeah. And then transparency is you being in tune with your emotions, with what's being said, felt, heard, and understood, and having empathy. Yeah. So all of those things are key in building the foundation to rebuilding trust. Yeah. So I want to leave us with some takeaways. We said a lot, and it feels like we've been talking a while, but I realized we had a situation with the wasp. So I don't want you to be left on a cliffhanger. I want you to know that trust, to me, I feel can be rebuilt. Yeah. I've done it time and time again, whether through our relationship, whether through relationships with others, and my relationship with God. It took me to do the work to find out where's the mistrust, where's the brokenness there, and how can I navigate through that? How can I be honest about it? How can I be open about it? How can I be transparent about it? Have realistic expectations moving forward and really build from a realistic place, starting at that 50-yard line. Yeah. And we're moving
the middle.
Yeah. Start from the middle and we can move. So I want to leave you guys with this. There are 6 tips that I found on an Instagram account that I follow. 6 tips for building trust with others. And it's from the Millennial Therapist on IG at Millennial Therapist. And I'll link that in the show notes for you guys. And there are 6 tips to building trust with others. Number 1, actively listen. Number 2, show up as yourself and allow them to do the same.
That's good. Not your different self.
Yep.
Not
and
the
don't
self they
make
like.
them be who you want them to be.
Exactly.
Let them be themselves.
Authentically you.
Number 3, apologize when needed, but don't when needed. Don't feel forced to apologize because if it's not real, it's not real.
Right. It can be felt. You can feel it.
So when needed. Number 4, respect their boundaries, and then they should respect yours in return. Yeah. Number 5, practice vulnerability. And number 6, once again, be honest.
Gotta be honest. Trust is never built without honesty.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
So good.
Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I know it's been helpful for me, just like even going down memory lane of the distrust and the struggles, but also seeing the beauty on the other side of me now still connected to those people and have better relationships moving forward.
And showing that the work is not done.
Yeah, for sure.
You're still rebuilding those relationships and continuing to, growing your trust with them and build upon that. Yeah. And same with our relationship with God and what we went through. Yeah. The process is not over. We have not arrived at 100% trust. Right. And I don't think you ever will. Like we talked about earlier in the beginning of the podcast, it's a branch. It's trees with branches, trust is. And so you have to work on each branch.
Yeah. And I mean, after just hearing this and talking with you, I think more so, like I asked, is trust built? I think more so at the end of this conversation, I think trust is more rebuilt.
Trust is grown.
Yeah, I think, exactly. It's grown and you have to take time to seed and plant it. But even rebuilding at times, that, because honestly, if trust is broken, then that's where honestly, that's where real trust is regained. It's through the rebuild,
Yeah.
and starting from scratch, right?
Yeah.
Because like even the Bible talks about if you have an offense with your brother, bring it to him.
Yeah.
So it's like, and if they receive you, then you gain a brother. That's what the Bible says. And so it's kind of showing us right there, rebuilding relationships and rebuilding opportunity to trust again. So
yeah. So
in God we trust.
So to leave you with it, if trust is rebuilt or can be rebuilt, and trust can, I like to say, be grown.
I love
if
that.
we're saying that it's like a tree and it's like branches, it can grow over time. So we admonish you, encourage you to water the areas that need to be grown within trust in your relationships and your friendships, in your work life, wherever trust needs to be built, even with God. And it can be done.
It can
be done.
No matter how far you are.
It can be done.
It can be done.
So thank you guys. We hope you were able to get something from this today. Hope it was able to encourage you.
Yes.
If you feel like this was helpful to you, please feel free to share it with someone, whether that be through audio or rather sharing the YouTube link. Just, get this out there.
Just help us promote.
Yeah.
Just promote it.
And even beyond us, it's like, I wish I had these conversations, in times where I was going through it. Like, I wish I could have pressed play on something like this.
Yeah.
And so now with podcasting, with YouTube, with everything out there, it's so many resources where we can get the news and the message out to people. So please share if this was helpful to you. Also, if you have a question and you want to be featured on the podcast, please feel free to hit the link down below and you can leave your voice note or voicemail. We want to put your voice on our podcast. If you're uncomfortable with that, I'll leave an email there as well where you can contact us and send in your question, and we'll answer you there as well.
So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and wherever you listen to podcasts. We would love to have you be a part of this Unfiltered family, and follow us at SteveVon and Britt. That's 2 E's, 2 V's, 2 T's in Britt.
And it's on the screen and in the show notes.
Yes, just in case you don't understand me and my foolishness. But we want to thank you again.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us.
Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Stay unfiltered.